Hi guys, welcome back to the new edition of this particular YouTube channel, Analyze with Ade Ayo. Alright, so in today's particular video, I'm going to share with you guys how my current tennis betting strategy has been consistently working for me. I'm going to give you guys a full breakdown in this particular video. Actually, I've made a step-to-step guide on how you too can also make use of this particular strategy of tennis first set total point and tennis full-time total game. So if you are familiar with tennis games, predicting on or betting on tennis games, you guys will understand that tennis betting happens to be a game of calculations and numbers, and when you get the number right, it is kind of automatic winning. This is the only game that I know the moment you get a certain figures, that's when you won. Even if the bookies, if they haven't approved the winning, that's you already know that okay, this game is already winning. For example, you predicting the first set over 8 or over 7, and maybe probably along the line in the first set, probably both teams they were already playing 4-4. You already know that this particular game will end up at 6-4 or maybe 6-5. The moment you are getting 6-4, that's already 10. So, and I'm going to list out some of the common results that you always get in tennis, even if you are not checking the stats. And I believe if you are able to acquire these particular strategies, getting 1.5 or 2 odds daily will not be something that is very hard for you, because as you guys are seeing it, it is very easy to accumulate 1.5 odd with tennis first set total points. And if you want to go for the full-time total games, you may not be getting it on Sportybet, but you can check across other bet platform. You are going to see it there. Alright, now so first I would like to share with you guys the secret of tennis first set total point, and the common point that that we always have in tennis. I'm going to reveal it to you guys in this video. So in tennis we always have maybe probably 2 sets or 3 sets, depends on the tournament, but commonly we always have 2 sets. So if for example maybe player A won the first set and player B won the second set, that means they play draw, that is 1-1. Then they will have to go to the third set to determine the winner. Are you getting it? But in a tournament whereby we are having maybe up to like 3 sets, for a player to be declared winner for that particular fixtures, that player must win at least 3 sets. At least 3 sets. So let us assume that they played the first set, they draw the second set, they are going to third set. That particular game can extend up to like 5 sets. That is another tournament for you. But what we always have most times is 2 sets. So at most we always get 3 sets game played. Now, for example, let's assume that you want to predict the first set and you don't know anything about tennis, and that's why someone that doesn't have experience about tennis betting stuff can even win without the knowledge of this particular game. They will just go on to the first set and look at the smallest odd, they will just pick it, and maybe they pick 4 or 5, maybe at 1.04 odd, because sometimes the smallest odd that you can get can be maybe over 7.5 first set total point. And most time the bookies always allocate ridiculous odds to that particular market, and maybe you are getting maybe 1.04, and someone that doesn't have knowledge of tennis will just click on those markets, and at the end of the day you are seeing them winning, even though when they don't know what they picked. Now this is what you always have in tennis. For a player to win at least a set, the first set, that player must have 6 points in that first set. That is, if they don't draw, maybe they played up to like maybe 5-5, that's when they have to go into another 10 up to like 7. That's when you are going to be getting 7 points and 5 points. But sometimes, most times, what you always have, the first thing that you have in tennis is a 6-0 in the first set. Are you getting it? So another one that you can have is 6-1. Another one that you can have is 6-2. Another one that you can have is 6-3. you can have 6-4, and you can have 7-5. You can have 7-5. That is when they played maybe 5-5, then they go on like that, 7-5. And you can have 7-6. Now these are the common results that you can get in tennis each set, except for the last set. Let's assume that maybe they played 4 sets, player A won, they played second set, player B won, and they went to third set, and in that third set they were still dragging the points against each other. That's when they will keep on going until they have the winner. Are you getting it? So now this is what we have 6-0, 6-1. Do you see these two? These two that you guys are saying, this 6-0 and 6-1, they are not common in first set of tennis. Most times you won't see them. They always happen, no, but it is not common. In a day, it can be maybe 2% of fixtures, or 5 or 3% of fixtures out of 100% of games they are playing. Tennis games they are playing a day, you can only find this particular result in first set, maybe 5% of the game. Now the most common result that you will always be getting in tennis first set happens to be 6-2 and 6-3, 6-4. You see these three at the middle that you guys are saying, they are the most common result that you can get in tennis. Now you see this 7-5 and 7-6, they are not common also, but sometimes you can see them maybe in the last 5 games of games that you want to play, or fixture that you want to predict. In their last 5 games you can only see sometimes maybe twice or once, depends on intensity of that particular tournament, or how those players, how their rank are like kind of close to each other. So what you are getting mostly is somewhere around 6-2, 6-3 and 6-4 and above, like that. So that's why most times if you are seeing the bookies allocating odds for over 6 points, because you will never see, if you are seeing over 6, it is very rare. Over 6.5, it is very very rare. You can never see over 5.5. In tennis first set, you will never see a bookies providing you over 5.5 first set total points, never. And if you are seeing the odd of over 6.5, the odd will be somewhere around maybe 1.01 or 1.02 odd. Now depends on the tournament. If you are seeing over 7.5, which happens to be the most common result that you can get in tennis betting strategy, is over 7.5 first set. That is most common. The odd that the bookies will allocate to it most times is always somewhere around maybe 1.02, 1.03, 1.04 and up to like maybe 1.10. Depends on the tournament. Sometimes for the female games, female tennis games, you can get maybe odd of maybe 1.09. Now if you are moving on to predicting maybe over 8.5, adding 6 and 3 together, you are getting 9. If you are going for over 8.5, this kind of market is a little bit risky, but it always happens depending on how you apply the analysis, your calculations and stuff like that. Because most times this particular over 7.5 is good for people that doesn't understand tennis at all, that doesn't understand the strategy or doesn't understand how to calculate it. Because I could remember when I started predicting tennis games, I started with just going for this smallest odd, which happens to be the first set over 7.5, before I later observed that this thing always come out well, and I realized that it is working out so well before I started applying method of analysis to it. So let's take for example most of my games yesterday. Let us look into them and let's see the outcomes of their first set, because I told you guys that in tennis you can have up to like 3 sets. That is, if probably maybe player A won the first set, player B won the second set, they have to go to the third set to determine the final winner. Now let us check the first set of most of these particular games outcome and let's see what we have there. So this particular game, after doing the analysis, I noticed that this game is expected to end up as even the way the game ended up. I was expecting it, but predicting maybe over 10.5 in first set tennis is a very risky attempt. So the best thing to go for is to either go for over 7 or over 8. Now if you guys look at the first set, you can see that the game ended up in 7-6. If you check these ones too, they ended up in 7-6. So let us check this. So we have 6-3 and that is 9. So for this particular game too, so we have 6-3 again and that is 9. So let us check this one also. They played 7-6 over 7.5 over 8.5 occurred. So this particular game, when you see retired like this, probably maybe one of the two players decided to quit, and definitely when this happens, that means the away players. Oh, I mistakenly removed the game. That means the player that lose the game, maybe the player had injury or decided not to continue the games again and like that. So if you guys go and check the game, you guys will notice that the first set is also over 7.5 over 8.5. So check this also, over 8.5 over 8.5 over 8.5. You guys can see over 8.5. The common results you are getting from most of these particular games are over 8.5, but the safe options that you guys can go for most times is always over 7. Okay, so we have so if you guys go and look, check most of the tennis games they play in a day, except for the one that has, let me give you an example of games that you can avoid. Let's look for a game that has. Yes, we can have some games like this, the match between these two guys, that the bookmakers will allocate maybe a very ridiculous odd for a player to win. So in this kind of a game, they can look scary because at the end of the day, the game can end up for this particular guy to win the first set by maybe 6-0 or 6-1. But fortunately, this particular game ended up in 6-4 in the first set. That is one beauty about tennis that I told you guys about. Now, for today, I already have my favorite games fixtures, tennis fixtures that are expected to end up as first set, either over 7.5 or over 8.5. So most of these ones I've played already. So we have this, and I'm going to look into them, and I'll just be ignoring maybe probably two games out of this, maybe probably this one, and I think this one probably. So let us look into the major games that I will look into for this particular game. So I'm going to check this, check this, check this, and this, and also I'll be using the opportunity to predict their full-time total points. Now let's go. Alright, so let us check. Alright, so for the first set of this particular game, this one, so I'll be going for over 7.5 in this. I told you guys, predicting over 6.5 in first set. You can see the odd. That means you are predicting that the game will end up at least maybe 6-1. That is very common, and you can lose it sometimes because once in a while the game used to end up as 6-0, but it is very rare when you're having two strong players playing against each other. But the reason why the bookies are allowing this particular odd line to be available is because you see this guy at home, this guy, the player A, is very strong. Is very strong. That is why they are giving him this kind of odds. But one funny thing about tennis is that predicting straight winning too is very risky because it will just shock you. Players that the bookies are allocating maybe 1.04 odds to, or players that are expected to win, they will just lose the game in a big time that they won't even score at least a set. That's why most times if I want to go for straight winning in tennis, I always advise people to go for player to win a set. So let's continue. So 4 sets over 7.5. So games like this, always try to avoid it. You see the odd. The game can end up in first sets over 8.5, over 9.5, but try to stay away from it. And if you don't want to stay away from it, just check the stats. Use the first step or the model of tennis betting strategy that I made in the previous video. You can apply it on it, and if most of the data that you get that you are getting from the game, from the fixtures, are aligning with your analysis, then you can go for it. But always try to avoid games like that. Now this particular game is like a risky attempt too, but let's go for over 8.5 on it. So we have these two tough games. I'm expecting over 8.5 first set, and for this particular game too, over 8.5 first set is expected. Alright, now so with 4 games under this particular tennis game, we are able to accumulate 1.67 odd. The first game, first set over 7.5, second game, first set over 8.5, third game over 8.5 first set, and the fourth game over 8.5 first set. Now these particular 4 games, it will shock you that they are also expected to end up as either over 18.5 total games. I'm going to show you guys right now. So the same 4 games that we have earlier as first set total points, we can also get their results as total games over 17.5 for the first guy, the match between Ben and Roberto, and the match again between Felix and Benjamin. I'm expecting over 18.5 total games in it, and the match between Taylor Fritz and Atman, we are expecting over 17.5, and match between Kamesana against Andrei Rublev, we are expecting over 17.5 total games on it. So this particular game accumulates to 1.62 world. If you are getting 1.5 or 1.62 world in a day, I believe that is enough. If you are getting it consistently, it is enough. It is not a must you accumulate a lot of games before you'll be satisfied with what you are doing when it comes to betting world. If you are joining us for the first time, don't forget to like our video, subscribe to this particular channel, drop your comments in case if you have any question, and also if you want to join our Telegram platform, you are going to find the group link in the video description and also in the comment section. Our private circle group too is there, whereby we drop free daily tennis tips. See you guys in the next video. Bye bye.